Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Pappy Hour. Welcome. We have our first guest appearance in show 11, which is going to be a lot of guests in the future. But our first guest is Vanessa Rohr.
Give it up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay, Vanessa.
Thank you for having me, you guys.
And this is
So honored to be your first guest.
Yes, it is going to be, we waited for you.
Vanessa is my lovely girlfriend. We have been together for nearly 4 years, and the purpose of this episode, episode 11, is to talk about the beautiful, wonderful, majestic island of Catalina.
Catalina. Santa Catalina.
Which I'm sporting right now on my sweatshirt. Shout
Flip
out,
your hair back. I can't see it.
shout out to Vanessa's mom who got her the sweatshirt, and I'm wearing it right now.
Catalina.
Yeah, so the reason why we're talking about Santa Catalina this week on episode 11 is because Vanessa and I just finished completing our very first ultra marathon,
50K.
50 kilometers.
Which it was at like 52 kilometers because they didn't do the mileage right. You guys
Yeah.
did 30, almost 33 miles.
32 point, I think it was 5.4.
32.5 miles in just about 9.5 hours.
Yep.
Incredible.
So it took us 7 months of training, early morning runs,
Cold runs,
evening runs,
summer runs,
nutrition, footwear, like
bailing on friends
bailing on friends
to
to
run.
just a lot of
A
sacrifice.
warm-up marathon in Mission Bay.
Yes.
We ran a training marathon, which is our first ever marathon, and we are not runners. I am 5'9", Vanessa's 5'10".
And
Worth-
as we say,
worth-
Jessica and I are a lot alike. Does it look like I'm a runner? I claim that I only run while chased. It has to be a large predator for me to actually run. And I would say I just have to beat one person. But like if we were around a group, grizzly bears,
Don't be last.
they'd be like, I want to be with Pat because he's dinner.
So we are not runners, but we set out on this great feat, and I just think it's a testament to how strong our relationship is, that not only were we able to do this marathon, this ultra marathon together and complete it and finish together, but that we trained for it all 7 months, and we made sacrifices, and we worked together, and we organized everything.
You kept each other in check.
We were honest with each
Yep.
other. We were,
It was so fun too.
it was
We
great.
didn't get tired of each other.
No, we never get tired of each other.
Yeah. We
So
were on like the same pace. So we
Yeah.
kind of like,
it was a great excuse to spend a lot of time with each other, and it was just the most wonderful experience. So this episode, we're going to get into our ultra marathon that we just finished. And the reason why we ran this ultra marathon is because we love Catalina anyways. We've done multiple backpacking trips on Catalina, 2 of which with both of our dads. So the 4 of us, me, Ness, Pat, and Paul, did a couple of backpacking trips, and we're going to get
2
into
years in a
that
row.
and some of the stories with that. And Pat is going to give us some wonderful history on Catalina. And if you've never been to Catalina and you're a California resident,
You got to go.
amazing.
shame on you.
You gotta go.
have to go. It is the hidden gem of California,
Yeah.
and it's so easy to get to. It's so
Can
beautiful.
of corn to get to.
Can of corn.
Can of corn, which was our motto of our trips.
It's always our motto whenever we finish something and like we're at the 5-yard line, right? We always say, can of corn, can of corn. I was going to go to Vaughn's during their race, and I was going to go buy a can of corn and wave it to them when they finished. But I didn't want to miss them finishing. So I'm like, oh, can of corn and watch them finish.
All right, so why don't
Um,
you start us off with some history of Catalina and, a little bit Island 101.
I took some notes because I didn't want to give misinformation. Sometimes I think I have exactly the right date in my head. And then with all the Revolutionary War of 1812, I need to get really good dates down. So I just jotted down a little notes. But Santa Catalina, the official name of it, Santa Catalina,
Santa or Santa?
Oh,
Santa Catalina. But it's kind of pronounced Santa Catalina. So Santa Catalina, named after Saint Catherine. Catherine.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the Spanish conquistadors that went ashore, posted a flag and said this now belongs to Spain.
Do you know the original name of it?
Yes, I do. So,
Funny you
so,
ask.
so Catalina Island is part of the Channel Island chain. I believe there's 8 islands of the Channel Islands. And it is the only inhabited island of the Channel Islands. You can land on other ones and you can camp, but it's the only one with, bars and restaurants and hotels. So only one that we would like to go to. And it was originally called Pimu, Pimu,
What does that mean?
Pimu. It was just the name that the Indians gave it.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it exactly means. But along the Indians, it's fascinating. There's been indigenous people that came and probably most likely canoed in their long canoes from San Pedro, Long Beach area. That was that was a very old establishment along where Palos Verdes is along there. So they figured they canoed across to get to the islands so they could fish, hunt, look for more animals, food, and then a lot of them stayed. And that goes back 7,000 years. So 5,000 BC, the first indigenous people got to Catalina.
That
So,
is crazy.
yeah. And at one time, when at its height, when it was discovered, but not I hate to use that word discovered because it's like there's 2,500 people living here. You're not discovering anything. When it was claimed for Spain by Spanish conquistadors, it had over 2,500 indigenous people living there,
That's a lot.
That's a big population.
Yeah.
and they were part of the I think they were the Pima. I didn't write down the tribe. Sorry.
That's all right.
But they were, coastal people, and then they stayed there and they flourished 7,000 years.
Well, on one of our trips when we were there, we went to the airport, which is up top
Mm-hmm.
on Catalina, and they have a really wonderful museum. I wish that I was in more of a headspace to stop and absorb information at that time, but we were
That
just
wasn't gonna
passing
happen.
through,
Going. Yeah.
carrying a heavy backpack, and I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention and learned about that, which I'd really like to do now that we've had some of the most amazing experiences of our entire lives on that island.
We have.
And I feel like it's a really good place to go and do these big physical feats. They have something called the Trans-Catalina Trail, which is 45 miles. And me and Vanessa in 2020, we had just gotten together earlier that year, and it was COVID and it was lockdown, and we were, what can we do? We can't travel anywhere. We can't go anywhere, but we can go outside. So we decided to do the Trans-Catalina Trail, and we did it in August. So it was super hot,
We got.
and it took us 5 days.
45 pounds on her back.
We were carrying roughly 40 to 45 pounds.
Yeah.
And
5 days. You guys did 45 miles.
I think it's advertised as 30 miles, just like our 50K was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it clocked in to be more like 45.
Well, we went from Two Harbors to Avalon, and that was
18.
29 miles.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
45 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just had the most wonderful time. Like it makes sense that indigenous people have been living there for 7,000 years because the energy you feel there with the wildlife and the ocean, you feel like you're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You feel like nothing is around.
Yeah.
You're far from civilization, but you're not. You're just right there. So it's just has this wonderful feeling of nature and energy and magic woven into it. So I don't know
Well-
if you're into that kind of stuff, but
I'll bring this up real quick so I don't forget because I didn't jot it down. But Catalina is the east coast of Catalina Island. So from Avalon in the south to Two Harbors in the north, it's extremely unique because it's one of the only easily inhabited areas. So you can see that is an east coast facing of the Pacific Ocean. So it doesn't get hammered by the Pacific. So everything on the west coast of California gets the full brunt of the Pacific Ocean coming into it.
as we've seen, especially in this winter.
Yes, hard, just that comes nonstop. So Avalon to Two Harbors has this beautiful coastline that we are going to explore on one of these trips. That is just, we've seen it from hiking and going down and seeing
Snorkeling,
where we camped that last night of our
Parsons
first trip,
Landing.
Parsons Landing. Just but it's so different because, and in that way, at Parsons Landing is almost,
It's the northern tip.
yeah, that's almost a little unprotected.
Mhm.
But when you get like really in between two harbors in Avalon, it is,
Yeah, there's little coves.
it's as close as like to a Caribbean island you can find. The water is
It's
crystal clear.
such a unique ecosystem that for California, you really won't find anywhere else like it in the entire West Coast.
Yeah.
So it's an eastern facing ecosystem. That means that it's real calm waters. It has a very diverse species of fish. The water is crystal clear.
Yeah.
Emerald Bay is just north of two harbors. South of Parsons Landing has some of the best snorkeling in the state. So
Yeah.
just very unique, very magical island.
Okay. So Native Americans, 7,000 years ago, paddled across. And then you know what they did, what they found there. This is obviously,
I read this
They
at the
got-
airport. I'm forgetting the name of the mineral. Or it's a rock,
oh,
right?
good. It's a stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Soapstone.
Soapstone.
Oh yeah.
Soapstone. So Catalina holds a lot of soapstone. So they would mine and basically manufacture. They would cut pieces and make soapstone. And what soapstone was used for, it was how you carried like boiled water in prepared food. It was pots and pans right now.
Yeah, it was
And-
easily carvable.
So it's like
Yes.
soft.
Yes, it's a soft, but it isn't permeable by water, so it holds water, and therefore holds food and stews and clam chowder and all that kind of stuff they were making back then. Otter chowder, I don't know.
Garibaldi chowder.
Garibaldi chowder. But that was that was why they went there, and I think then they would take it back and go trade to different tribes along the West Coast.
Is the book Island of Blue Dolphins based on Catalina?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I love that book.
That's a myth.
Oh.
It is not. It is.
I love that book too.
Yeah.
I read that in
it
like
is
fourth grade.
one of the other Channel Islands. It was maybe Santa Barbara Island. It was one of the other small islands, or closer to Kappa and San Clemente Island, a little north. Those are off the coast of Santa Barbara. But about a girl who everybody leaves the island and leaves her behind,
Yeah.
and she survives, right?
Yeah. And I remember like the abalone shell that she would always talk about and all the jam roll.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
I should read that book again. That's a gem.
Yeah. And then, so basically, the first Spanish sailor who got there was old Juan Cabrillo. Pretty much discovered everything, right? Because he just came up the Pacific from, I think he left from Veracruz or somewhere in Mexico. And in that time, it wasn't even Mexico, it was Spain. It was indigenous land that Spain had claimed. So he came up there and just planted a flag. He stopped over in Catalina. This is for Spain. And he moved on. No one ever went there again for 60 years until 1602 when Vizcano, another Spanish conquistador who was sailing up and down the coast, he went there, 1602. Again, no one else. Crickets until about 1780. So what started happening based around here in San Diego in 1775, who was
Wait.
that?
Don't tell me.
They were started building 21 of them.
Oh, what's it called? The bells.
The missions.
The mission.
Oh,
The
that's
missions. Yes.
The bells.
So the missions are what really, was the downfall of the California Indians because they couldn't handle the disease. So, the everybody that came up from Spain could handle whatever the fever was that time, or
Well, and also it connected California in one giant north-south route.
so
so
if someone was sick in San Diego, all of a sudden that sickness was maybe brought to San Francisco or as far north as Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
So that was the demise. So from 2500 by 1830, Catalina was cleaned out.
Really?
Zero.
Oh my gosh.
No one left. They
Oh.
all were either, and this is debatable on who you talk to of what scholar, but some of them by choice went to mission in Los Angeles, mission in San Juan Capistrano. It was all based, there was nothing in California except the missions. So went San Juan Capistrano, San Gabriel, Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, So they left the island either forced or by choice, or they died of disease. And they had tons of different sicknesses and diseases that came through.
An end
and
of a
wiped out people.
7,000-year run, and now the
Yeah.
island is trampled by ultramarathon runners.
Yeah. So
And bison.
7,000 years, and it took about, it took about 60 years to wipe out 7,000 years.
That is
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah.
So in 1840, the island was pretty much cleaned out. And
Rest
about
in peace to all those wonderful
Yeah,
original
it's kind of
inhabitants of the
crazy that
island.
they lived. I mean, like, we couldn't live on Catalina, in a campground without having water brought in for us, firewood brought in for us, all the stuff in the backpack. People survived on that island for 7,000 years, finding water. They didn't have a desalination plant, so they found their own water, and 2,500 people lived there. So they lived at where Avalon is today, because, where you guys hiked out, where the golf course is going up, that's a great river valley, right? So wherever all their small what's the word I'm looking for? It's all their little towns, we'll call them. So they were all based in river valleys.
Yeah, because
So
it'd rain and the water would flow down and they would collect.
water would flow
chemicals.
down. Yeah. And so that was Avalon, Little Harbor, the Isthmus at Two Harbors. And then they named a couple other. Emerald Bay was, I think, one of them.
Yeah, because that has a couple of deep valleys down in there,
Yeah.
which you could create a little area to live.
Yeah. So, whenever it rains in California, it usually rains. If it rains in Southern California, it's raining. In Catalina, it just doesn't have anywhere to gather. So it just runs all
'Cause
off.
there's no lake. There actually is a small lake in Middle Ranch that we ran through,
There's a
but who
reservoir there.
knows if that was there
That
before.
was a reservoir built by Wrigley.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the
It's
first
a
ones.
man-made.
So that's the one bummer, that, like, when we get there, because we're all spiritual and everything is like, oh my God, it's a great place to look at stars at night, and you're hiking and you feel one. But unfortunately, that's not the only. That's the case up and down all over North America. So it's not just the Catalina tragedy, but
Yeah.
that was. So the missions. Oh, and also the missionaries here. They wanted to build a mission in Catalina, and
Why did
they just couldn't get. They had no water there, and they just couldn't get the. It was hard transportation back then. A ship.
They
Getting
didn't
to the
have the
harbor.
Catalina Express.
There was no Catalina Express
golf
leaving
carts?
from Dana Point.
Yeah.
No golf carts to get everything around. And then in that time, there was a lot of pirates there and smugglers.
Arr.
So if you were smuggling something from another country, and either north, if you were coming from Russia, coming from China, coming from Peru, wherever, and you were bringing something in, that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
You could hide out. There's so many little bays in there that are all safe. You could hide out, get everything ready, and then either drop stuff off, and then you're still 26 miles from Los Angeles.
Interesting. I wonder if there's buried treasure.
Or, yeah.
Didn't they find giant bones on Catalina?
Thank you for bringing that up. I was gonna bring it up eventually.
Is it true?
I
I
just,
saw a TikTok on that.
yeah. Unfortunately, you said the two words that usually 99% mean untrue, but
No, I mean, I think I actually dug into it a little bit. I saw something on it, and the rumor is, I won't say it's a myth, but rumor is
Myth.
that giant bones, like 10-foot tall humans, were found there
yeah.
and passed down from generation to generation of indigenous people. Was that at one point in time, a couple thousand years ago, some very, very large 10-foot tall, blonde, blue-eyed, pale-skinned people showed up there. Doing what? I don't know. But then they were obviously buried there, and their bones were excavated. And I'm pretty sure that's true.
We could find out. if
I mean,
it's
we
true.
could fact check that, but
fact
I
check
just
away
think
on the
it's
10-footers. Because do you
I
know
just
how
think
many
it's interesting.
10-foot people were in California and have documented in California? Let's say, just moving ahead from the time of the missions in 1775 and forward.
Maybe you're just unaware of their presence.
0. Don't give in to the 10-foot stories.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
All right.
Haven't you seen those pictures of like the doorknobs like all the way up here? And they have like giant doors and people say they're giants.
Where?
In Europe.
Oh, okay.
I think
They'll like take pictures and like the normal door is like,
Yeah.
3 feet or whatever. Or like doorknob, I mean. And then the doorknobs are like 8 feet tall.
Maybe they were on stilts.
That's
They
circus
could have
people.
been. All right, we're going to save that for another episode. The giants
I'm
amongst the world.
intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do some
Here's
research.
another little fact too. All these facts that, make you cringe, but this one was a fact and it really happened. Was in 1857, it was like November of 1857, a couple ships left for the first gray whale hunt out of Catalina,
What? The first gray whale hunt?
out of off the coast of California. They set sail out of Catalina.
The whales?
They were getting the whales. Luckily, whale oil didn't last long. They let up on them before they
Did too
they-
much
they
damage.
raised the last one. And
Thank God.
now they're flourishing along our coast.
They're so cute.
All right, so now we're at 1864. 1864. There was some Civil War soldiers, some Union soldiers attached to the island at 2 harbors. I don't know how many, a small company, probably 30, 40, 50. And they wanted to make sure that smugglers of the Confederacy and any kind of Confederate pirates didn't land there. So there were Union soldiers during the Civil War there
All the way in Catalina?
on Catalina.
Wasn't the war being fought in like
It was a long way
South
away.
Carolina?
It was a long way away, but for some reason, they needed some Union soldiers at 2 harbors.
They had to make sure.
That is very weird.
The oldest living wood structure on Catalina is at 2 harbors.
Which one?
It's where the Civil War soldiers were. It's now the 2 Harbors Yacht Club,
Oh,
right between the restaurant where we walked and the campground. Remember those little buildings all along there?
oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the oldest structure on Catalina.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we walked right by it a bunch of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So 1864, a gentleman finally.
These facts just don't stop.
So it was a land trust, right? So it got deeded. So interesting enough, the Pico Rico, he was the governor. It's Pio. It's a tricky little name, but
Governor
he was a
Pico Rico.
governor. He was a governor of California, 1846, and he deeded the island of Catalina to a sea captain that was, I'm not sure, is from somewhere back east, but he gave him the whole island. And that was right before Mexico then deeded all of California, surrendered all of California to the United States. So Mexico gave the island away. And that's what the protesters in 1972 that went up and sat in Avalon and protested it. They said that wasn't correct. It really belongs back to Mexico. But it didn't last long. It was not holding any water. But so that went through a bunch of land grants. And then it ended up the first European owner was James Lick, who at one time,
Pico Rico and Mr. Lick.
yeah, James Lick, he was the richest man in California. James Lick Observatory overlooking Santa Clara County, and lots of stuff named after James Lick. But so he owned the island for about 25 years, and then after that he sold it off to the after James Lick died, and they sold it off to the Chateau family, who then went bankrupt. Only spent 2 years. The first time they were going to use it for a vacation destination was 1887, and was trying to build it up and sell parcels. And
People went on vacation in 1887.
yeah, there was,
We'll deserve it at all times.
No,
Yeah.
I earned that vacation
and part of
back then.
part of his scam was he bought a ship so he could get people from L.A., Long Beach, along the coast, out to Catalina.
How long did that take back then?
It probably, they were probably doing 5 knots on a steamship or 7 knots, so it could take
Ever.
3 or 4 hours to get over there.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't the Catalina Express as
No.
we
We were chugging
experienced
along.
last weekend. Okay, we're moving along. The word, the name Avalon. Where did it come from? What is it? It was named after the chateau went bankrupt, the land went back to the James Lick family. And then after that, the Banning family. And remember, we saw in Two Harbors that one little 12 haunted hotel up there?
Yes.
That's the Banning
That's
house.
the Banning house. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So Bannings were really the first successful people to buy Catalina, and that was in I don't know, that was in 1891.
That place looks scary.
1891. The
I'd
Bannings.
rather sleep at the campground.
I wonder why they chose Two Harbors to put it there instead of Avalon.
Two Harbors is such a little gem.
Yeah, I think he was working on Two Harbors. I think they were trying to build up Two Harbors, but they just
It
never.
really took.
So when did Wrigley
never
come?
really
When did Wrigley come along?
Well, funny you should ask. Wrigley. So let's talk about the Bannings for a little bit because it's the Banning family. His wife is the one who named Avalon. All right,
Oh,
and Avalon means bright gem of the ocean or beautiful isle of the breast.
that is not how I was expecting.
Beautiful. I'm sorry. Oh my God, buddy, we might have to cut that one out. Not of the breast. The beautiful island of the blessed. The blessed, not the breast. Man, the old guy needs to put on his glasses. All right. If that makes Pappy Hour episode 11, hope you all get a good kick out of it. But Pappy had trouble reading his R for his L, so the blessed turned into the breast. All right. I got you see Catalina on a busy Saturday night. It's Emerald Island of the breast. All right. So the Bannings. The Bannings were the first ones that started building
You're
infrastructure.
really holding on to that beautiful island of the. Okay.
And the Bannings lasted until 1919. And what happened is the Banning old guy died, and they put it in this trust company.
Rip.
Yeah, okay, it was his son was running it, and it was the Catalina Island Company, and they were kind of hanging on, but they weren't blowing the place up. I mean, they were building some things. They built the St. Catherine Hotel, which next to Catalina, the next little bay is Descano Bay.
Mhm.
Descano Bay.
The White Houses.
No, the one in between that. The one where it just is like a little
Where
beach
you
club
walked
now.
Where you walked with Paul right by
Where
the
Paul and I
casino.
walked.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the big St. Catherine Hotel. St. Catherine, Catalina, and that thing torched. I'm not sure what year, but that all
Really?
came down.
That's too bad.
Oh.
Yeah, and then what kind of killed them was in 1915. There was a massive fire in Avalon. It burnt half the town.
1915?
1915.
Was that before Wrigley got there?
Yes, and that's why Wrigley bought it, because they were in financial trouble.
Oh.
So Wrigley had gone there with his family.
The Wrigley from
The
Wrigley
Wrigley.
Stadium, bubblegum.
Wrigley Stadium, Wrigley Spearmint Gum, owned the Chicago Cubs. I'm sure owned a huge swath of real estate in Chicago. But he traveled there with his family, and he's like, "This is a cool place. I think I'll take it."
Yeah.
How do you like those shoes?
Please.
How do you like our island? I like it. I'll take it. So he slowly bought shares of the company until he owned 51%, and then he forced him out. And
Of Wrigley?
Yeah.
So
no,
he was,
from the Banning Trust.
oh.
Yeah, so it went from the Bannings to the Wrigleys. So 1919, Wrigley owns the whole island, lock, stock, and barrel, and he's got big plans. So what does he do? He buys one thing he did, he bought the Ning Po, which was a Chinese smuggler, right? It was a Chinese smuggling ship built in 1753. So this old Chinese smuggling ship, and it was sitting in San Pedro, and he bought it and brought it, and he parked it in Two Harbors, and it sat there from 1919 to 1938 in Two Harbors, when it was burned for the filming of, we ever find out what film producer, buddy? But anyway, they made a lot of movies on Catalina, a lot of films.
So that was kind of his plan, was to utilize it for Hollywood's purposes.
Well, I think he used it. It was like a restaurant, a hotel. It was this big ship in there. And then probably starting to sink, and it was from 1753. It's too bad because can you imagine restoring a
Yeah.
Chinese smuggling ship from 1753 and have it all restored? It'd be incredible. But anyway, whether it was accidental fire or the studio burning it on purpose during a film, it burned and it was all gone. So I thought, wow, when you get off the ship right there in Two Harbors, there's got to be a gold mine of stuff underneath there from that thing burning and sinking.
You don't
Yeah.
think all the people who have dove and snorkeled there would have perhaps found something? But you're
Yeah.
not diving and snorkeling in where all the ships are and the boats go in and out. So that would be
I
interesting.
think probably there's been 1,000 people before me that have thought about it and actually done it.
Yeah.
So there's
Or
nothing
not.
left.
Or not.
So the Cubs, Chicago Cubs, Wrigley owned the Chicago Cubs. So by 1921, he built them a whole stadium there and a country club. That's where the golf course is now, which, by the way, the golf course in Avalon on Santa Catalina Island is the oldest golf course in California.
Well, no, I've played golf there.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, when I
We
went.
hit the sticks there one day.
Yeah, we went to.
That.
Yeah, my parents took me and my sister to Catalina when I was I think I was in 5th grade, 4th or 5th grade, and we played golf there.
Yeah. Had a good golf game there.
That's awesome.
So spring training. So every year the Cubs would come from around Chicago or wherever they were living, make their way and spend, a solid month in Catalina and
Training,
spring
working
training,
out.
March and working out and playing ball games, getting ready for opening day.
Is there a baseball field?
Yeah, there was a baseball field. It's a smaller field now. I think it got absorbed by
The high
one of the
school.
parks or the high school or something.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he built them a whole stadium and then a country club, a clubhouse, and locker rooms with it. So they could all, it was brand new then. So this was all state of the art stuff.
That's pretty neat.
1929, he finished the casino, which anybody who has been to Avalon, that's the end of my notes. I can put that away. Everything else is on the cuff of Pappy. The casino is the most iconic building, I am going to say, possibly outside of some San Francisco buildings. I mean, possibly in Southern California. It's one of the most iconic buildings.
Yeah.
If you flash that up on a screen and put the casino there with the Bay of Avalon, that's going to be a good chance people are going to say, Catalina.
Yeah,
They
even if
might
you
not
haven't
know the
been there.
history. They don't know they don't maybe know Avalon, but the casino is a focal point. And it was finished in 1929. It's been standing there for nearly 100 years.
We should have been a casino.
Good
It's
job,
called-
Ness. Tell me about
Is
that.
that Nestor?
Yes. Oh, I love this. Tell me about that.
Casino, I think it's Italian. Is that
Yes.
correct? Means gathering place. So it's never been a casino. It's like they have it on the museum. Never been a casino. It's a museum now, but
But they call it a casino
because
because
it means gathering place.
yeah.
And what was it when it opened? A movie theater.
Okay, that's what it
Yeah. It was a movie theater on the bottom. It's a circular building.
means.
And on the top is the largest ballroom, I believe, in the United States.
Yeah.
It was 180 feet in diameter for that round ballroom. That whole upstairs is one big round ballroom.
That's amazing.
And apparently, like architects around the world have studied it because the acoustics are like so amazing because you can't hear anything
Mhm.
outside of the ballroom. So you can be dancing up there, like 3,000 dancers, I guess, could be up there. And then in the theater, you won't be able to hear them. So it's like
Oh.
super like
And the-
architecturally cool.
Yeah, and the theater was in the bottom
Mhm.
and the ballroom was on top.
When we went there when I was in 5th grade, we watched a movie there. We watched Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you saw a movie there, which is great because it lasted about 90 years as a movie theater. And in 2019, it closed. So hopefully it's still a theater there. So hopefully they start showing
It's a
some.
museum now, though, right?
No, you can just walk through it.
Mhm.
And the museum's kind of on the left and the right of it, but the movie theater is still intact. Paul and I looked down there, kind of snuck in and peeked in there. They're just not showing any films in it. I just don't think they can get the people going there. There's
Yeah.
only right now about so that's another good little stat. So there's 2,500 Indians on the island right now. There's only 4,000 residents on the island.
So pretty much the same population.
Not much
Yeah.
fair. Now, all 4,000 live in Avalon
Yeah.
and then about 200 or less than that, 100 in Two Harbors, and then 4,000 in Avalon.
Well, I think something that really is cool about Catalina is, people have come to California for the last couple of centuries and developed and built and tore down and dug up. And, as many people who live in California and are lucky to reside in California, a lot of the nature and the scenery has been affected negatively because of that, and the coastlines
Oh, you bet.
and the valleys and the forests and everything. Catalina is still
It's
98% nature.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is all the people live in Avalon. There's some really nice, beautiful homes in Avalon, and there's a few sparsed out other homes, and there's one place called Middle Ranch in the
Yeah.
middle of the island, and a couple of other homes and campsites throughout the island, but for the most part, it's untouched.
Mhm.
And I think that's
And
really cool.
how do you know that firsthand, Vanessa?
We've walked the whole I've been around that.
4 times you've been walking that
Yeah.
island.
Yeah.
This past time was the first time I've ever slept on a bed in Catalina. I've always slept on the ground
Mhm.
camping.
You're right. We've always camped. We have.
Yeah.
All right, so that's enough about history. If anybody's interested, there's great history about Catalina. That dives a lot deeper into that. It is an absolute phenomenal gem of an island, and everyone, just if you haven't been there, go. It's easy. Ferries leave from Long Beach, San Pedro, Newport Beach, and Dana Point. You got 4 places to leave from. It's an easy crossing.
It's about $80 round trip.
About $40 bucks
Seniors get a
away.
discount.
Seniors get a discount.
All our seniors watching over 55.
About far 100% of our audience.
No, it's just no matter if you just go, like I think a lot of people make the mistake and they go there for a day trip, right?
Yeah.
So they get up, they got to get up early. You get to the ferry, you're all anxious about a ferry. You get across, you walk into town, you shop a little bit, you go to lunch, you rent a golf cart and you drive up to the botanical gardens, or you drive a little loop out of town, and then you get back on your ferry and you're like, I saw Catalina. No, you got to go to Catalina for a weekend.
Mhm.
You got to go at least 2 nights. Friday night to Sunday is a perfect trip. Get out to the airport, take a car, take a tour outside of Avalon, do some good walking, go up and see the botanical gardens.
Take a snorkel.
You can go zip lining. They have a huge, big zip line place right on the outskirts of Avalon.
Play around a golf at the California's oldest golf course.
Rent some equipment and snorkel. If you're a diver, go for a
Okay.
dive.
And
Yeah.
honestly, I would rather go to Two Harbors. Avalon is, the place to go, I'd say, if you've never been. Definitely go to Avalon first. But if you've already been to Avalon, go to Two Harbors.
But the problem with 2 Harbors, you got to camp. So there's no hotels in 2 Harbors.
Except
Right.
for the haunted one.
12 rooms. So you got 12 rooms, and then you
Or
got,
if you know anyone with a boat, you can park it there and have a nice slumber on the
Yeah.
boat.
But if you are a camper, going to 2 Harbors is a great camping weekend.
Because all they have is a campground, a restaurant,
Bar.
a bar, a general store, and 2 or 3 houses, and the Banning Hotel.
Why is it haunted? That's it.
Why is it haunted?
I don't know.
I
It's
don't
in-
know. That is
I
a
don't
good.
know.
that's
You know,
a-
I always
a
question
rumor.
people saying haunted because,
I don't even know where I heard that.
yeah, no, I just read that on both places that brought up the Banning House. No, I'm sorry. One of the articles said, "Oh, the haunted Banning House." So
Mhm.
maybe I read it when we were
Maybe
in
it's just
Catalina.
Wrigley
legend.
took over, but the Bannings are still there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's enough of the history. It's a remarkable history, for one American entrepreneur to own the whole island. And really, if you want to talk about karma starting and then the island being, put through the ringer and screwed, the island came back because of Wrigley. Because in 1975, he donated 96% of the island to the
Catalina
and started-
Island Conservancy or
Yes.
Conservatory.
and it's now here we are, almost 50 years later after that, and
We're able
the-
to enjoy it for all of its beauty.
the island looks the same
Yeah.
along that coast we were talking about. Along that east coast, there's Boy Scouts and Girl Scout camps, different summer camps that are all along there.
Vanessa went there in what grade?
8th grade.
8th grade for
Yes.
for a school trip.
We
Yeah.
stayed there. We went snorkeling. I saw the bioluminescence. It was awesome.
It really is a special place.
Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about
Our
our
trips.
trips. Okay.
So the first
Backpacks.
So I went there when I was a little kid for a couple of times. And then I went back in 2020 with Vanessa, and we had planned to do the Trans Catalina Trail, which starts in Avalon and finishes in Two Harbors. 45 miles. They recommend doing it in 5 days. And you go from Avalon, 12 miles into Blackjack Campground. Then you hike another 6 miles past the airport down into Little Harbor. And then from Little Harbor, you hike another 6 miles over the back from the east to the west side to the west to the east side of the island into Two Harbors.
That's like 9 miles, at least.
And then you hike about 8 miles up and around the ridge to the northernmost part of the island of Parsons Landing. And then you come back the coastal route from Parsons Landing down into Two Harbors. It's about 45 miles. And we saw
You have to be self-sufficient for the most part.
you have to, yeah, we brought all of our own stuff. And Blackjack Campground, Little Harbor Campground, Two Harbors Campground, Parsons Landing Campground,
The best.
the best.
Yeah.
What was your
We
favorite part?
we did a lot of training for it, but nothing.
Talk
could
about
have-
the altitude.
Yeah, it's steep.
2,000 feet
Yeah.
is the highest altitude. The airport's at what? 1,700, 1,600 feet above sea level. It's crazy up and down.
Very hilly.
It is. And we got off that boat with so much weight on our backs.
We were not packing light.
No. And
Overpackers.
yeah,
This is our first backpacking trip.
I know, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, but it was the best time. We saw bison. We saw one in the distance and we were filming and zooming in. I was like, okay, that's good. Like, far enough.
We saw one.
And then we definitely caught.
And then
close.
day one,
times.
a couple.
Tell a story of the day one.
So day one, we get off we wake up at 4 a.m., catch the ferry out real early, land, and we're off. We have a 12-mile day.
Well, these guys that we saw on the ferry, they saw our poles, and they're like, "Oh, kind of a good idea. Maybe we should have brought poles."
Thank God we brought
Fast
the
forward,
poles.
we saw them 4 days later coming down the hill. We were going up, and they're like, "We're never going on a hike without poles again." They were cursing themselves.
Poles are
Yeah.
key.
Yeah,
But the first day, so the bison were brought over in the 1920s, because Hollywood was filming some westerns out there,
Mhm.
and the bison are still there. The bison,
200 of them.
and they're wild.
The bison have never
200.
left. They're wild, but they don't have any predators, so they're pretty chill. Like they're not like the Yellowstone bison, which will charge you.
Yeah.
If you just leave them alone, they're mostly chill. But we didn't really know that, so we saw a bison in the distance on our first day. And then we came up on a bison. He was on the trail and he was not moving. So we had to reroute around him.
Yes,
And-
through the bush.
We were in the weeds. We
Yeah.
were trudging through sticky bushes and going up the side of a mountain, literally so steep.
Those poles came in handy.
This-
Literally, because our backpacks were like
Yeah.
carrying us
pulling you
back.
down.
Yeah,
We were about to tumble down the hill.
literally.
And so we finally made it to our first night and we were dog tired.
Blackjack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And from
we
there,
were sleeping underneath a beehive, so the entire night just were buzzing above our heads.
And of all the campgrounds that we've been to, Blackjack's the only internal one. So you're not on the ocean.
yeah.
Two Harbor, Shark Harbor,
Little Harbor,
Little
Parsons.
Harbor, Parsons Landing. You're all in the water.
Mhm.
So you fall asleep with waves. You're listening to waves rush, and it's
Yeah.
beautiful. So that's a rough.
But we were
Campground.
just working out the kinks of setting up our little tiny 2-person backpacking tent and our blowing up our air mattress, our little sleeping pad,
Yeah.
and learning the kinks and ins and outs of taking our pack all apart and putting it all back together. So by the time we were out of there, we were efficient with our packs.
Oh yeah. But the first couple days were rough because we had blisters already. Day one. You
Day
have 4
one.
more days to go, and then you're.
I know
so
how you
tired.
blister.
My little
No. And
Vanessa had 6 toes after the Ultramarathon. She had a 6th toe.
I did.
you don't have to lean into the mic to say it.
But having to get up on your feet afterwards, the day in the morning with all your stuff, the blisters, you're tired.
Knowing you're going to do it all over Groundhog Day.
The
Yes.
first
Every day, Groundhog Day.
So fun.
the first 100 yards out of camp with those blisters are pure suffering. But then something really weird happens and your body just goes, oh, okay, we're doing this. All right. And the pain just seemingly goes away. Same thing happened with the ultra. You really settle in once your body kind of prepares for what it's in for.
Mhm.
So other than that, we had just the best trip.
Yeah.
It was difficult, but we had only been together a few months, and it was just such an awesome way to make the most of COVID and
Yeah.
really get outside and do something totally outside of our comfort zone. We're
Yeah.
not backpacking girlies. We
are now.
we are now.
Oh yeah.
And it's really started this trend for us of not being afraid to jump into something new. So
Yeah.
whether it's, we love nature, and sometimes it can be scary to just immerse yourself and jump in, and 5 days of backpacking, like, what the heck? Okay, but we can handle it, you know?
Everything comes to an end.
Everything comes to an end. And so it was just such a wonderful trip, priceless memories that we'll remember for the rest of our lives. And we left that island going, we have to bring our dads back.
dads.
And the dads got into the mix.
Yes.
Paul and I, with our fins on, strapped to our backpack, and
My dad's flapping.
yeah, that was a great trip, and that was my first backpacking trip. So now fast forward a year later, you went in August. Now this is September the next year,
Yeah. For your birthday.
Yeah.
and that was right around my birthday.
It was
month,
on your
right?
53rd birthday
53rd birthday.
2 harbors.
No, 52nd birthday.
in 2021.
Yeah, 52nd birthday.
Yeah.
And I was really afraid because I didn't train at all.
Well, you had
I
broken
was-
your foot not far before.
I had a foot injury, a broken foot, about a year before that, and I was trying to come off that, and so I was a little leery. It was my first backpacking trip in over 10 years, so I didn't know how I
You
was
did
going to
great.
do, and
You absolutely killed it. And so what we did, we obviously didn't just throw them into the 45 miles, 5-day type of thing. We did a 3-day. So we came over on Thursday.
2 days of hiking.
We came over on Thursday
Oh,
night
yeah.
into 2 harbors.
Spent the night.
We left from San Pedro into 2 harbors. And then we spent the night at the campground in 2 harbors.
Yeah.
And then we got up Friday and hiked all the way up to Parsons Landing. So we just did 2 harbors to Parsons back to 2 harbors, which
Yeah.
was about 8 miles of flat terrain.
Wasn't too bad. A little up and down.
Little up and down.
Switchbacks.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Madness.
we were just in and out of the coastline and the coves, and
Yeah.
it was so beautiful walking along the water and Emerald Bay and
Yeah.
all those little campgrounds along there.
I wish we could have went down to Emerald Bay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get down there.
Yeah.
It's just very steep.
Yeah.
But
Down, straight down, and then straight back
but
up.
we were carrying our packs. We had everything we needed, and we brought stuff to snorkel, which we hadn't done our first trip.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your thoughts from
Okay,
that backpack
so
trip.
we went over on Thursday. Actually, we didn't go over Friday morning.
Yeah, because then we spent Friday night, came back Saturday, I don't know, maybe it was Friday to Sunday.
Yeah, I think it was Friday. So we got to 2 harbors, and we went immediately. We got to our camp. We set up our camp, and then we went snorkeling. Remember that
Yeah.
first day?
Uh-huh.
So we snorkeled Friday.
That's right.
Great snorkeling. Just in the-
Garibaldi everywhere.
Yeah, in the open water, right along the coast, just shore diving, and just really good. Water wasn't too bad.
Remember we were at the top of the hill too, at that little campground.
Mhm. And they had a restaurant in town, so we didn't have to cook our food that night. So we
Yeah.
walked down to the restaurant. Paul and I sucked down a couple of beers, big old
Cowboys were
cheeseburger,
there.
and the Cowboys were there.
This is
Yeah.
a great
That,
story.
that was crazy. Okay, so the Cowboys were they there our last day, or were they there? I think they were there when we got back to camp on
Yeah, I think you're right.
Saturday after, because they were partying Saturday night. So when did we spend another night back there at 2 harbors on Saturday, or we waited for our ferry? We took a ferry Saturday after.
It's hard to remember because we did the same thing 2 years in a
Yeah.
row, except we did a different route the next year.
'Cause-
But
so I think it was Saturday afternoon. We got back from Parsons Landing, and we were dead tired. We hiked there on Saturday, right?
yeah,
And then we hiked back on Sunday.
and that's a great route to do if you're trying to break into the backpacking because it's very flat and it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's no bison to worry about because This is on the northern part of the island past the isthmus, so they can't get up there.
Okay, so it was Sunday afternoon, and we got back. We dropped our packs. We were all tired. We went in for another burger. So it was like burger on Friday,
Best
burger on
burger.
Sunday.
Yeah.
We didn't hardly eat on Saturday. So then there was this group of cowboys, all from Southern California, that shipped their horses on a barge from San Pedro over to Two Harbors, and then go on this huge long horse ride all through Catalina. And I think they donate a lot of money to the conservatory.
And that's what that server said. She's like, yeah, they donate a lot of money, so that's why they get to act like
Yeah.
this, basically.
Yeah, and they were hilarious.
Rowdy.
Oh my God,
Crazy.
they were roping guys that are on the back of a chair and dragging them around. And
Yeah.
It was like
It
going
just-
back in time to an old Western bar.
yeah,
It was insane. We were sitting back like we were watching a play.
the funniest thing
Yeah.
we saw
The
this girl who had had a few cocktails was getting frisky with one of the cowboys, and they were, they were getting to know each other.
They were macking lips.
We have lip to lip, and finally, one of his buddies drags him out of the bar, and then I think it's 5 minutes later.
Not even.
She is 2 minutes later. Boy, she's hooking up and already making out with another cowboy. She bagged
were-
2 cowboys.
We were cackling just watching this
Yes.
unfold in front of
Yeah.
us. It was like we were on
It
an
was
old Western play.
And then there
It
was
was
a
amazing.
hand. All the cowboys were at a camp. So this must
Sure,
have
Harbor.
all happened Friday night. This had to, because remember, they were still staying Friday night.
Oh, for the
So
weekend.
yeah, so this was our first. This was our Friday night when we got
Before
there.
we
When
hiked.
we went to the restaurant,
Yeah.
and there was a handler for them that would come bring a van down, fill it up with so many drunk cowboys, and drive it to their campsite where they were staying at Shark Harbor or Little
Yeah.
Harbor.
Uh-huh.
And they were having a big. That's where their whole camp was. But they wanted to come into the bar, so they got into the bar time, and then so she would come back in and then make that route, and then like 10 minutes later, another cab would be there, and she'd round up 6 or 8 more drunk cowboys, and it was a riot watching
It
them.
was a hoot.
Yeah.
They were
It
fun
was,
guys.
it was food and entertainment.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was Friday night. And then Saturday morning, that's when we
I think we
left. We
left.
did the hike, spent Saturday night, came back.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it was a 2-night of camping, and a 8 miles there, 8 miles back. So
Bad.
I mean, the way it is now, that was a can of corn.
It was a great break in for backpacking.
But we had heavy packs on
Yes.
heavy.
because we had all of our all of our snorkeling gear, and we brought about 7 times as much food as we needed.
Just
Because
to be safe.
we went back to the Two Harbors for the cheeseburger. But that was trip 1. All right. And as soon as we were on the ferry back, we're like, we're doing it again. So
Yeah.
this time,
So
let's say the
2022.
trip that the girls planned for Paul and I.
So 2022, we wanted to cover more ground. So instead of going
more
up to
ground.
Parsons Landing, we went into Two Harbors this time, and we hiked from Two Harbors to Avalon. So the reverse Trans-Catalina Trail
Minus Parsons.
minus Parsons Landing.
Yeah.
Which we had already done. So you technically have done the Trans-Catalina Trail. You just divided it up in 2 years.
Can't
It took
afford.
2 years.
5 days, 2 years.
Dick corn.
But something really cool that the Catalina Conservatory does, or I don't know if it's through them or the campground, but they will port your stuff for you. So
Happy loves a porter.
Worth every dollar.
so you can pay a little extra money, and you can have your backpack and even perhaps a cooler
Oh,
ported
we did bring a cooler.
that will, that they'll take from campground to campground. So then when you arrive in the campground, all your stuff's already there. You obviously have to set it up and unpack it all and get it all ready. But that way you're not doing the hike with all the stuff on you. It's not so heavy. And
And the ice cold Coors Lights when we got into Shark Harbor after that hike, and some ice cold pickle juice,
Yes.
and oh my God! But do you remember the dinner? Okay, let's talk about the trip.
Once I told you, Dad,
We
we're
could take a
getting a
cooler.
porter and you get a cooler, you were
all in.
beside yourself. You're like, okay, so it's more miles and it's more treacherous hiking. It's hills and it's way more miles.
Love it.
It's, almost 30 miles. So double what we did last time over 3 days this time and 3 nights, 4 days and 3 nights.
Yeah.
But now we get to enjoy ourselves,
Mhm.
you know, like it's just a hike. And
Yeah.
then we get time at the campground. And I mean, your dad was stoked too.
Oh yeah, he was
So the
having the best time.
first night we did the same thing. We got there. We just had a cooler, but we didn't use anything in our cooler. We just let it sit. We went into town to the bar, beers and cheeseburgers, and then we left Saturday morning. That was a heck of a hike getting out of
That was rough.
Two Harvests.
That was some of the biggest incline of
Yeah.
the whole time. So you
Up
were
to
huffing and puffing.
1,800 feet. I think it was damn near one of the peaks,
Yeah.
all the way up. 1,800 feet, hiking on this ridge.
Mhm.
And thank God I didn't have a backpack on or I would have been a mess. But
Yeah.
just hiking with
One
poles.
step at a time. You can walk all day.
We all had light backpacks. We'd stop about every hour and have a street waffle. Street waffles, our little Dutch treat.
Fueled by Stroops and
If anybody out there is not eating a Stroop waffle, get one quickly because they are. Man, I, it's been like the little Dutch secret that no one talks about. And then once
yoo-hoo.
these girls introduced me to the yoo-hoo Stroop waffle,
So delicious.
they're awesome.
Yeah.
God, they taste good.
So a little Gatorade and a Stroop waffle kept us going, and then we
Yep.
arrived in Little Harbor, and there was our shiny, beautiful cooler.
There was our cooler,
Pappy
picnic table, our
Pappy
backpacks.
cracked open a Coors Light, and what did you start cooking?
What was the day when we cooked?
Was it tried to?
No, it was beef, right? Beef tacos.
Yeah,
Did we do?
we did tacos.
Didn't we do steak tacos? Because you had
Oh,
it
it's your
marinated.
birthday too.
Yes, we
around
did
your
carne
birthday.
asada tacos.
And this was your birthday in Little Harbor.
yeah,
Yeah,
birthday, carne asada, Coors Lights.
carne asada.
But you were
yes.
able to really meal plan and prep food so that when we
Yeah.
got there, you were able to use the little charcoal barbecue that they had.
Yeah, we started up a they left a bag of charcoal, started up a charcoal grill. We cooked the meat on there, onions and peppers.
Mhm.
We brought cheese, tortillas right on the grill, and we had a huge old taco feast.
You got a ocean swimming.
Got another snorkel. Wasn't much snorkeling there.
No, that was just a
Your
swim.
crazy dad went out like way too far and was
Oh,
out
yeah.
there
With
and
his neon green shirt.
definitely diving for abalone or something.
We got busted by the ranger though, because we only paid for one person, and the guy
Oh,
paid
yeah.
3
Yes.
us.
Well, that
Ugh.
wasn't until Blackjack. Tell the bison story. Paul had a little friend wandering into camp.
So
Oh.
Vanessa's in and out of her tent. Jessica's in the tent.
This
Just
is-
gotten out of the tent because I
Yeah.
had to go to the bathroom.
And this
And
is
I
the
said,
next morning. This is first thing in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said, Jess, go to the bathroom with me because I'm afraid of the bison, you know? Who knows where they are?
Side note, bison were milling around this
Everywhere in
campground.
the campsite.
We had seen them when we came into the
Yes.
campground.
And so she
Two big males.
yes, go by yourself. And so I was like, oh, fine. So I emerged from the tent and I look up. My dad's at the picnic bench making his little coffee and his little pour over. And the bison is literally where Pat is to me, like
Yeah.
walking.
5 feet
Yep.
behind him.
And I was like, Dad. And I run behind the tent to preserve myself. And I'm like, Pat, Pat, Pat. And he's like, Jessica, get out of the tent. Look out of the tent. And he's walking right by my dad, just like, doo-doo, doo-doo. My
I mean,
dad
if he
just
could have just turned to his left, hooked him with a horn, he could have threw him 30 feet. He was
smells
5
breath.
feet behind him.
Yeah.
Well, Paul
Silently.
was sitting facing forward. The bison was approaching him from his back. So
Yeah.
Paul did not see the bison.
No.
The bison sauntered
far.
right by him, 5 feet away on the side of him. Paul looks to his right, and there's a 2,000-pound animal
Yeah.
the size of a Fiat
yeah.
Yeah.
just sauntering by him, and all of us
Silent.
have
Just-
our jaws on the ground just watching this guy
Yeah.
walk
And
through
then we
the
followed him
campground.
around. Like he went over to another campsite.
They
He's-
were in hammocks, so
Yeah.
they literally were stuck there.
Yeah.
And so I still had to go to the bathroom. And so I was like, okay, if one bison's here, I'm safe. And so I'm in the porta potty when I kick my foot out to, see out. And I see one crossing the road into our campsite again. And I was like, how are we supposed to walk back to the campsite? No.
Yeah.
So that is just an added element of Catalina that just makes you feel so in nature.
Yes.
You are in nature. You got to be aware of your surroundings, and you just appreciate these giant behemoth of animals that you rarely ever get to be that close to one of a bison. So
Let's talk about a cool thing that night in Sharp Harbor. So now we're in Sharp Harbor. So we're on the west coast of Catalina. The water is way rougher. The the scenery looks more like California, just, cracked rocks and where you could just see the waves been pounding. But would we get that night a beautiful sunset?
Oh yeah.
Remember that the sun was setting right over it was just
Yeah.
great sunset that
Yeah.
night. All right. So then the third day we get up. So we'd hiked that day. Oh, the second day we hiked, we were going on the way to
Blackjack.
Mm-hmm.
but on the way about, maybe halfway,
Mhm.
about halfway, we came across the airport.
Oh yeah.
Which is a great stop.
Oh my God. That was a good stop.
And Buffalo burgers.
Buffalo burgers, down a couple of beers.
Ice cold Coors Light.
I mean,
and
this is
Buffalo cheeseburger.
This is luxury hiking, people.
Oh yeah. I could have
Didn't
just
have to
camped
carry
there.
our stuff.
That
If
was
the airport had a
best.
campsite, I would have stayed there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so by the time we got to Blackjack, I had forgotten to update our reservation. So I got in trouble by the park ranger because I only put one person. And he said, "There's 4 of you here," and they charge you by person. So we paid our fee.
No, there wasn't anybody at
problem.
Blackjack.
It was Shark Harbor.
It was Shark.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
the
you're
guy
right.
came around. He's like, "Oh, I got you down for one. Huh, there's 4 of you."
You're totally right.
Yeah. Blackjack, we never saw anybody.
No.
Yeah.
But we did see a bison just on the other side of that little divot. Remember?
Yeah.
At Blackjack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we finished up the trip and
That
we
was a
came
rough
in.
night of camping. Blackjack. Blackjack was always rough because you
Yeah.
weren't sleeping on sand. That was the other thing.
Dirt.
Yeah, you slept on rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we finished our trip, and our last day from Blackjack to Avalon was the longest day mile-wise. And you come down those switchbacks at the very end, and your quads and knees are hurting.
Oh,
and
man.
so we had to be real careful. But we
Saw
had
another animal that day.
Yep, we saw another bison on the trail.
And a
Fox?
We saw the fox.
Fox, that's
we
right.
saw an island fox, which
Yeah.
are really rare.
Yeah, and we made it into town, and
Hiked
all of
in.
our stuff was there. We kicked off our shoes, and we went over to the bar,
We're to the
to the
Marlin
Marlin
Club.
Club.
Yeah.
and we had another deliciously well-earned beer.
We had
That-
Corona that time.
Yeah,
Yep. Then we went to
we
Luau Larry's
got a
We went to the
buffalo milk.
lobster trap.
or the lobster trap.
Yeah. Oh, we
Okay.
did go to Luau Larry's too.
We went bar hopping.
We did a few bars and then Paul and I started back at Luau Larry's on some buffalo milks.
Well, me and Vanessa had responsibly headed over to the ferry, lined up, had all our stuff there. I had our tickets ready, and where were our dads? Up until 5 minutes before they let us onto the ferry.
Like fish.
Having-
Drinking like fish.
Having a buffalo milk
They
at
were
Luau
not
Larry's.
getting on the Catalina Express sober, put it that way. So
Yeah.
Pat and Paul were 2 peas in a pod,
Yeah.
literally.
I noticed that there was a lot of pain involved in that trip. So the more buffalo milks and Coors Lights I had, the pain got better.
Yeah, it's no small feat to go out and do something like that.
A little bag of bones,
30
I was-
miles.
It was
30
a-
miles at 53. I was pretty happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were all very proud of ourselves. And me and Vanessa made some really priceless memories with our dads, which we will remember forever.
That's four trips to Catalina.
So then we, so that was 2022. And I thought, oh, well, we don't have anything on the calendar for 2023. And we had been running a little bit. We had done a 5K, we had done a 10K, we had done a half marathon. And so I was looking for a marathon to run this fall in 2023. And I happened upon a 50K, which is 31 miles, so only 5 more than a marathon.
Just 5 more.
But it was on Catalina, and I just thought, I think that we're meant to do this. And it was January 6th, 2024, so it was kind of right in line with going every year. And Vanessa and I started training about in June.
Well, I said, have fun. That sounds like a really good
Yeah,
idea
let's talk
for
about
you.
first of all how Vanessa said she'll come and support you.
Sayonara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she ends up.
And then I had FOMO. So
Then Vanessa's friend Sydney decided to sign up. So Vanessa said, oh, okay, well, now I have
Oh,
to
And
do it.
by the way, can we give a shout out to Sydney who killed it?
Shout out.
6 hours,
yes, 5:59.
5:59,
Yes.
32 miles in under 6 hours. Third place in her division.
Yes.
Third place in under 29 age group.
Yeah.
Shout out Sydney. She's a straight
Third
savage.
place.
Yeah.
She ran the whole way.
Oh yeah, she was like 76 out of like over 400 runners. Top 100.
We don't know what our place was because our only goal was to finish. But
Yeah.
yeah. So Sydney is a straight savage. But once she signed up, Vanessa said,
I
all
couldn't say
right,
no.
I'm in. And aren't you glad he did it?
I mean,
It's a great
So
time.
7 months of training.
One
I
day.
had a pretty decently severe knee issue happening after we ran our training marathon in early December. Patellofemoral pain syndrome, basically runner's knee, and basically just inflammation around my patella, which means that no real long-term issues, nothing ACL, MCL, PCL, just pain.
Yeah.
So I did not run for 5 weeks leading up to the ultramarathon. I did,
Ness did.
and Ness did. And I did everything else under the sun that I could do. I stretched my butt off. I've never been so flexible in my life. I did the elliptical. I tried to swim. I went for walks. I walked backwards up the hill. I did my calf raises and my tibialis raises and my hip raise. Like I
And
did
it all paid off.
everything that I could possibly do
Did
to
it?
prepare. And it actually paid off. My biggest fear in my head was that I'd have to get picked up by that damn truck, that I wouldn't make the cutoff, that I would waste Nessa's time and all of our training, that she would, because we signed up for this together. We were going to start together. We were going to finish together.
Yeah.
So Ness was going to stay with me even if I was gimping along. And she did, even though she totally could have gone faster than me. So I really appreciate that.
Vanessa, I had a quick question for you. Give me the first 5 minutes when you guys started at 6 a.m., pitch black, running into the abyss, up a mountain, into the darkness.
the energy was buzzing, honestly, but I felt like a weird sense of calm. I was just trying to stay warm.
It was cold.
Freezing.
Very cool.
Yeah, my hands, I had to like warm them up because it was freezing. But yeah, just like I've never been obviously a marathon runner or anything like that. So it was really cool to just be with people that do all that stuff.
Kind of like going into battle.
Yeah.
When the sun's not up and you're doing something so pumped up, like as the sun's going up, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a form of the human of like, that's when, if you want to talk about natural adrenaline, that's when you get it. You
Totally.
get it for free.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of this race. The whole point of this was to push past what we thought that we could do. Like, what are we capable of? Could I walk 32 miles? Yeah, I could. Like, if my life depended on it, I absolutely could. And so with that in mind, we just
Grit.
went for it.
Yeah.
Dug deep. And I think that,
It was enjoyable.
oh yeah, but I think every once in a while, it's important to put yourself through a little bit of suffering to keep life in perspective. I think that's very important to the human experience, and calculated risk and calculated suffering. An ultramarathon is suffering that will pay off for the rest of your life.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We ready to wrap up episode 11? That's great. Thanks for
Ness,
joining us.
Can you give a
Vanessa
finishing
Roller.
thought? I want to hear more of what you took away from this now that we've had a few days to process it.
I think that what you said about like a long-term, like drawn out, like high of finishing, I felt that because like at first you're like, oh, it's cool, I finished, but now I'm like, it's really sunk in, like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that. Like I never thought I would run a half marathon, let alone a marathon, let alone an ultra marathon.
Mhm.
And it was just so cool that our bodies are able to do that. We did it together.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm gonna run another one.
Oh God, no, not yet.
Not
We're
yet.
My
going to
knee-
embark on triathlons.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Little ones.
there's
Yeah.
bucket list things. Backpacking trip.
You're not looking at an Ironman.
Ultra marathon. The next is a triathlon potentially, and we'll keep you updated. But that's where we're at in our life right now. If you one day have ever thought about running ultra marathon or not, we
Do it.
started with a 5K, so
Yeah. And we were late. We had to jump in to the run that
we
was
were
already-
late to our 5K.
Yeah.
But just move your body; it'll pay off. It'll
Guys
feel
did
good.
it. And just one last side note, because we didn't talk about it. In this trip, we left Friday morning. The race was Saturday. We were supposed to come on the ferry home Sunday. The ferry got canceled Sunday because of the high surf and the wind's crazy. So we got a bonus day there.
Yeah.
Spent it in the beer garden watching the 49er Ram game. Had another great dinner. And had a bonus night. We came home Monday.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
And it was so heartwarming that me
Yeah.
and Vanessa's parents have gotten so close over these last 4
Besties.
years.
Yeah.
They love each other, and
It was so awesome seeing you guys there at the bottom of the hill.
I know coming down that hill and seeing. So we first saw our dads, And
Paul and I hyped up because we were getting antsy, so we started hiking up.
You've been on all of our long runs, and every time I see you, I'm like,
I know, just seeing you guys, it was like such a relief and such a, oh, we did it now. There they are. We're safe now. And then we turned the corner, and Sydney was there with her camera.
and then our mom.
And then both of our moms were
Crying.
standing with their phones out, crying,
Crying.
watching us run by. And that was just a moment I'll remember forever. It was
Yeah.
the best moment ever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great
Yeah.
to enjoy it with you guys.
All right. That's a wrap.
Thanks
Great.
for all your support. Thanks for all the times you came on
Aw.
our long runs and handed us a stroopwafel
We
and
couldn't have done it without
tossed me a Gatorade and drove me to here and picked me up from there. So
you.
we couldn't have done it with without our sponsors, our lovely parents.
Yeah.
I'm
Totally.
a proud sponsor.
Anyways, Catalina,
Catalina.
it's
Visit.
the best spot ever. You got to go.
Okay, that's going to wrap up episode 11. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Pappy Hour.